All right, folks, it's been in the news. Started September 2023. This year, there'll be a quota system that will limit the number of foreign nationals that can compete in ISSA's high school competitions. Well, there are conditions there also. Zooming in to tell us more about this is the president of Inter-Secondary School Sports Association and the principal of STETS, Mr. Keith Wellington. Morning, sir. Welcome to Smile. How are you? All right, I'm not hearing you, sir. You're not hearing us? Well, let's see if our guys could fix that.
We were talking about it earlier.
We were talking about it earlier. There's a quota on how many transfers from one school to the other locally. But then, and not just recently, they've been, a long time ago, people have been coming from other countries. And I remember, and I think it was way back in 1993, we had an exchange student from Germany. And he played for St. George's at that time.
Really?
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Mr. Wellington?
Hearing you clearly now.
Okay, and I can hear you now. Morning, sir. Welcome to Smile. Hope you're well, sir.
Good morning, Devlin and Simone. Yes, I'm well.
Hi,
Thanks for having me.
All right. So we were talking about it earlier this morning, and it's in the news that you've started a quota system. Before we get there, why did the quota system on local transfers come into being in the first place?
All right, so you can recall that came into being 2018, right? It took effect, I think, 2019 September.
Right.
We implemented a quota system because there were complaints from our principals, our member schools, that a number of schools were having an inordinate number of students coming in from other schools, essentially to shore up their various sporting teams and creating an unlevel playing field as it regards to competition fairness. So our principals recommended that a rule be put in place to ensure that no school would be able to and block bringing in a number of students and change the complexion of their team just by recruiting and bringing in new students from other schools.
Okay, and you keep saying principals because the principals make up inter-secondary school sports, right?
Yes, the principals, all high school principals are a part of ISSA. And when we make rules, it is these principals who have to determine what these rules are and whether or not they want these rules to be a part of the regulations regarding our competitions.
Okay, so that's locally. Let's talk about the catalyst now for these discussions and the limit on foreign nationals.
Right, so as I said, in 2018, we implemented a quota system, and I explained why. Since 2018, we have noticed that there has become a greater influx of foreign nationals coming into the country and basically, essentially, to participate in our competitions. As Bertis indicated earlier, we have always had foreign nationals attending school in Jamaica and participating in our competitions, and we have nothing against that. We continue to welcome them. And in fact, we are not barring any foreign national from participating in our competitions. So the current stipulation is that if the foreign nationals come in after age 16, having attained the age of 16, there will be a restriction as to the number that can represent any one ISSA member school. So we have 170 schools. So it effectively 107 times whatever the restrictions are still allowed to come in and participate. So for example, the limit for football is 3 level. The quota limit is 3. So each of our 170 schools could still have 3 persons over 16 representing them in our football competitions.
And
it is not a bar.
And why 16, Sir Keith?
All right, so for us, those involved in the education system would recognize that for the most part, both locally and internationally, secondary education basically runs between ages 11, 12 to 16, 17. So we figure that a kid at 16 years old would basically have completed their secondary education or at the end of their secondary education, wherever they are. We want to encourage our schools to develop our talents, and therefore, if we are going to help others to develop their talents, we would rather them come in at a younger age which will allow them to be developed and to represent their schools, rather than coming in at 17 or 18 or 19, where essentially we think that they are coming in just to ensure that the teams are stronger, rather than for developmental purposes.
But, Mr. President, that would suggest that I could bring 20 kids from Grenada at 15 years old, and they still end up representing, the school for 3 or 4 years. So
that is what the rule now allows. You could still come in. You could still go to Grenada or Barbados and get 20 kids at age 13 or 14, and they represent the school. But what we are suggesting is that, first of all, it is unlikely that at age 13 or 14, that would be regarded as mainly raw talent, and the school will be expected to play a part in the development of those kids, and we have no problem with that.
But I'm just suggesting that you could still end up with a number of overseas athletes representing your school.
Yes. And that hence my earlier statement that we're not trying to bar overseas athletes. We're just saying that don't have them coming in at age 7. All right, so for example, we have had a case, for example, where an overseas athlete came to Jamaica essentially as a part of a development program from one of our international governing bodies. And that international student coming in at age 18 to Jamaica actually represented a school for about 2 days.
What?
2 days?
Yes, sir.
Wow. That's an interesting thought an interesting point that you just made. So if what do you call that? If a diplomat comes in and his kids are with him, and he's over 16, would he still be part of the quota?
No, there would be no quota would be applied to that person. So generally, again, if we have families of any type relocating to Jamaica, and they have kids 16 or older who are enrolled in our high school, we would not have any quota restrictions on those persons.
I know you've gotten some, obviously views vary on this. You've gotten some blowback. Some folks are in agreement. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, Sir Keith, what does this really tell us about the state of our sports in Jamaica, especially at this level? I think it's positive. We have to put the rules in place to be able to mitigate against. But this is an endorsement, no?
Yes, it is. It is, and we have to manage the process. We obviously persons are coming here because there are opportunities by participating in our competitions. We have to manage that process because at the end of the day, we are not doing professional sports, and we also want to ensure that the opportunities that are here, our kids and our development as a country benefits from those opportunities as much as possible. The restriction is not anything new. There in our National Premier League, which is a professional activity, there are restrictions as to the number of foreign nationals who can be registered by our club. Unfortunately, Bertis will tell you that we have school teams that had more overseas-based players on their team than are allowed on a National Premier League team.
Yeah. Is there a concern, sir, because we send off kids every single year to American universities? Is there a concern that an American university might say, well, all right, since we're not doing that, we only want 1 or 2 from Jamaica now? Is that a concern or no?
No, definitely not a concern any at all. University, from the word universal, is actually meant to offer universal opportunities to people from everywhere. So universities will never have the issues that we have. Furthermore, you get a scholarship to go to university to compete. In our high school student, our high school situation is really about development, wholesome education and so on. So we have to be mindful of how we treat our competitions. So no, we're not concerned. And I don't think that it's a reasonable comparison either.
Okay.
I was wondering if it says only body of its kind, like in the region, in the world. Because what do you benchmark us against, really?
Yeah, I don't think.
We are one of a kind. I'm not sure that we are the only type, Simone. But when we look at other organizations that organize school sports across the Caribbean and elsewhere, in many cases, these sporting competitions are organized by clubs or national sporting bodies, not necessarily by the principals.
Yeah. Final question, sir. You said September 2023, so the foreign nationals who are here already is not a problem. So this year you could
No, it
have
does
schools.
it does not affect them.
So in other words, this year you could still have schools with more than 3 because they were here already, right?
I am sure we will.
All right. Thanks for speaking with us, sir. God bless you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. President of Intersecondary School Sports Association, Mr. Keith Wellington, also the principal of St. Elizabeth Technical, and they're now in a battle for the Headley Cup with Woolmer, so good luck to both teams. After the break, Sim will have an interview about hiking
Let's go hiking.
as a hobby. There you go.